Hey house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 21 updates and spoilers. Our house guests of the day, we've got Rhonda Cates, Richard Welch, and Robin S. Yesme. Thank you all so much for the support. We could not do this without you, and we really do appreciate it, especially since you guys are sticking with us through this season. So thank you again so much. And if you guys want to be house guests of the day like this lovely bunch, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. So when we left off yesterday, the house guests were waiting for the Power Veto competition to start. The final Power Veto competition of the season. So let's just talk briefly about the state of the house going into this POV. So initially, Holly made a deal with Cliff and Nicole that if they voted for her to stay, she was going to be throwing not just the HOH, but also the POV competition. So then Cliff and Nicole decided, you know what, that's not really fair of us to ask her. So they made a new deal with her. They said, you can play hard for the Power Veto to secure your own safety, but you have to promise that you will vote out Jackson if you win. Oh, it sounds so ridiculous because it is. So Holly agreed to the deal. She's not going to keep that. Jackson also made a deal with Cliff. They both agreed that they're going to vote out Holly. If one of them wins Power Veto, they'll take each other to the final three with Nicole. He's not going to keep that. Neither Jackson nor Holly plan on sticking with these deals. Duh! They would definitely vote out Cliff in a heartbeat if it's up to them. But Cliff seems to think that Jackson and Holly would both follow through with the deals. Nicole is a little bit more skeptical. I feel like she's hopeful that they would follow through, but I don't think she really believes that they will. So speaking of Nicole, she won the HOH this week, so she is guaranteed a spot in the final three already, but she wants to fight for that Power Veto because she wants to make sure that Cliff is going to be safe. She wants to build up her resume, and nobody's really asked her what she would do if she won the Power Veto. So obviously she would leave the nominations the same, but she would be asking Cliff to vote out Jackson, and he already agreed that if she does win Power Veto, he will do what she wants. So then the feeds go down for a little under 5 hours for the POV competition. It was individually timed. It was a mix of mental and physical. It sounds like one of those ones where they ask you a question and you have to use a slingshot to launch a ball to knock down the photos of the house guests. I think it's the house guests that don't apply to the question and not the ones that do. So if it's only one person, that's tough because you gotta knock down a lot of people. If it's only one person that the question applies to is what I'm saying. So it was very physical, and Jackson won the final Power Veto of this season. Bye, Cliff. I gotta say, Cliff has really fallen apart in the last week. This whole dilemma about whether they should stick with Jackson and Holly or keep Tommy, that really messed him up, and he has made a lot of mistakes the last few days. Okay, so Cliff, Nicole, and Holly were talking about the competition in the kitchen. Jackson went off on his own to the target bedroom. He was feeling emotional. He just secured his spot in the final three, and we know that he also secured Holly's spot. So he's saying, I'm going to the final three with Holly. And then he starts crying, and he says, I love you, Mama. I'm going to the final three with Holly. We did it. We did it. We did it. We did it, Halls. We're going to finale night. Thank you, God. So then BB calls Jackson to the diary room. And as he's walking to the DR door, Holly goes up to him, and there was a really awkward exchange. He's like standing there waiting for the door to be openable. Holly says something to him. I couldn't hear what it was. But Jackson says, this is me being effing happy. Are you serious? Shit. So then Holly's rubbing his stomach, and she's like, okay, I thought I didn't know. So Jackson is trying to force the diary room door open. He's like, bleh. It looked like he was gonna break it. He finally opens it, and as he walks in, Holly says, okay, I love you, and then she walks away. What the F It was bizarre. So then Holly plays it up to Cliff and Nicole. She's like, oh, it's all okay. Everything's okay. I don't know if he's happy or mad. I'm the one going home. I should be the one crying. She's very clearly not. She's not upset at all. I feel like that should be very telling to Cliff and Nicole. It almost looks like you could see it on Cliff's face, like he's thinking, yeah, why isn't she more upset? But he's like, whatever. He's in denial. Okay, so then let's talk about how the house gets placed in this power veto competition. So obviously we know that Jackson won. It sounds like Nicole was only 2 minutes behind him. Ugh, so she was pretty upset about that. Holly was maybe like another 2 minutes behind her, not totally sure on that. And then Cliff clocked in at like 38 minutes. I think there was like a 1 hour time limit for this comp, but nobody timed out. But Cliff finished way after the other three. So there was lots of running back and forth. Holly was saying, I had to stop and use my inhaler like 3 separate times. And Jackson had the best stamina. So even though it sounds like he may have struggled with the answers to the questions more than, say, Nicole, he had more stamina, so he was able to get it done faster. And yeah, I already said he had to hit the answers by, or not the answers, by launching a ball. So then Cliff and Nicole were chatting alone in the kitchen. And Cliff says, it's okay. We're still a final 3. Like with Jackson. He says, and I think he'll do it. Vote out Holly. I don't think he's gonna flip. Come on, Cliff, wake up. You really think a showmance is gonna vote each other out? No. So Cliff says that's why he was so worked up. Like he was being all weird with Holly by the DR. And it's because he knows what he's gonna have to do now that he won. Okay, so Nicole, again, is very disappointed that she didn't pull out the win. She was super close, but she just could not seal the deal. So then Cliff says, again, it's okay, because I've got an agreement that gets me to that final 3. And he says it's still going to be 2 versus 1 in the final 3, so we still have a chance to beat Jackson in that final HOH competition. Well, I mean, he got something right? It's still going to be a 2 versus 1, except now it's going to be Holly and Jackson versus Nicole. And they're talking about how they're still going to have a chance to beat Jackson in the final HOH because he's not the best at mental comps. So if it's still following the old format, it'll be part 1, endurance of some sort, part 2, a mental one of some sort. Usually though, I feel like that one is mental and physical combined, so I don't know. And then part 3 is usually like complete the jury member's thought, which is, I feel like, a toss-up because the answers are always super weird. So that one's a toss-up. I like how Big Brother Canada does it, where part 3 is a really hard, detailed days competition, basically. So I think that they should do it like that, so it's a little bit less random, but that's just my opinion. And yeah, I don't know that part 1's even gonna necessarily be endurance, because I feel like, maybe I'm just confusing it with Big Brother Canada, but I feel like they've mixed it up recently. Maybe not. So anyway, where are we? Blah blah blah, final 3. Sorry guys, sometimes you just lose your spot in your notes. Okay, so they agree that Nicole should give Holly and Jackson the HOH room for the next few nights, you know, because they're going to be split up. It's going to be really difficult. This is so hard to watch. Remember last week when Jackson and Holly were like, oh my god, I can't believe we gave Nicole the HOH, and now she's plotting to backdoor Holly on Jackson's HOH. Well, now it's basically like the flip of that. They're planning on getting rid of Cliff on Nicole's HOH. I mean, technically, she didn't really have to do anything, right? Okay, so anyway, Cliff says as long as Jackson sticks to his word, and he thinks he will, they're gonna be the only duo left. But if he doesn't do it, then whatever. He says, I got played, I'll shake his hand. Cliff, I think you're gonna be shaking his hand. So he says, even if that happens, at least I will still have my champion, Nicole, to cheer on in the finale. That's nice. Okay, so then Jackson kneels down in the target room to say his prayers. I just don't know if this is like 100% genuine. Like, I'm not dogging him for praying, but I just know, I feel like he only started doing that like a few weeks ago or so, I want to say, when he's trying to really clean up his image. I don't know. But Holly walks into the room at one point and interrupts him, and he's like, can you give me a minute? And yeah, when he's done with his prayers, he goes into the other room to get Holly, and he just like presents himself for a hug, like Voldemort asking Draco to hug him. I'm just a Voldemort standing in front of a Draco asking him to hug me. So Holly, of course, walks over to him. They do their leg wrap lift. Okay, we're over it. And Jackson says, I did this for you. You know, Cliff was gonna take me to the end. I didn't have to do this for me, but I did this for you. I would never turn my back on you. And she says, I would never turn my back on you either. And he says, that's why you're coming with me to the end. So Holly's like, do you realize how much you deserve? $500,000. It is within reach, and the jury, there's no way they won't give it to you if you're up there. And you would think Jackson would be like, oh, I don't know, we played separate, like, different games, you might have a shot too, something along those lines. But Jackson's like, and I want you right there with me to watch me win. He didn't say that last part, that's basically what he said. So Holly's like, yeah, I want to be there with you, I'm so proud of you, you earned this and you deserve this. And Jackson says, I already know what I'm gonna tell Cliff. He's thinking he's gonna say, yeah, I gave you my word, and I meant it at the time, but things have changed. New opportunities have presented themselves. Sound familiar? Oh, you trying to lose that jury vote or what? I mean, he's saying this because it was something like what Cliff told him when they let Holly and Jackson know that they were thinking about flipping their vote to keep Tommy last week. I feel like at this point in the game, you know you're going to be going to the end. Maybe take the high road. Maybe try and get that jury vote. I don't know. So maybe he won't end up saying that. Maybe he'll come to his senses, but we'll see. So then Jackson says, we wouldn't have been in this position if, with like all these ridiculous new deals, if Cliff and Nicole hadn't tried to F us. And he's saying, they're out of their damn minds. So he's gonna try and blame all of his dirty gameplay on Cliff and Nicole now. Dude, just own it. Just own that you're playing a dirty game. I have nothing wrong with people playing dirty games, but just own what you're doing. So he says, we handed her, meaning Nicole, an HOH, and I'll be damned if I hand him, Cliff, $500,000. You want something? You effing earn it. You really want to go there, Jackson? Do you really want to go there? So Holly says, yeah, I handed Nicole top 3. That's on you. Nobody said that you had to follow through and throw that HOH competition. That's on you. That's on you. So Jackson says, nothing in this game or in life is just served up on a platter. Except for secret shower snacks, I guess, right? And he says, I'll be damned if I work my ass off to give someone else $500,000. I have worked hard to get here. Holly says, you've worked harder than anyone else to get here. Ah, it's so painful to watch. So Jackson says, if y'all want to be snakes in the grass, I'll slither right there with you. But there is bite behind this bark, and y'all are about to see it. So a few quick things here. We do find out that Holly and Jackson were planning on going to the final 3 with Cliff and not Nicole, but because of the way things worked out, obviously now they'll be going with Nicole. So Jackson says Cliff did this to himself. You know, I was definitely planning on bringing Cliff to the end. He means final 3, not final 2. But then he decided to side with Nicole, and he said something like take Tommy, but they didn't actually end up keeping Tommy, if you hadn't noticed. But remember last week when they first found out that Cliff and Nicole were waffling and not sure what they were going to do, Jackson says, okay, just because they're even considering breaking our deal, that's it. I'm going to lie to them. I'm not going to feel bad about it, whatever. So that's all it took for him to go dirty like this. even though they didn't actually end up keeping Tommy and voting out Holly. I'm not saying they're wrong for doing that. I'm just pointing out that that's what happened here. So, yeah, he's saying it's Cliff's fault because he sided with Nicole and, like, thought about keeping Tommy instead of sticking to the original Final Four deal. Okay, so then Big Brother gave them a tie-dye kit, which they haven't used yet because they were going to wait until they could go outside and use it during the day. Cool. And then Nicole was in the HOH room with Jackson and Holly at one point. Cliff was in the diary room. And Nicole says, guys, I feel guilty. So Jackson's asking her, you know, why? What's wrong? Nicole says, I know there's no way of knowing how that HOH competition would have gone down, but still, you, meaning Holly, jumped off, and you didn't have to. And she says, you are a far better person than me because I don't think I would have done that if I was in your position. She says, I really wanted to win today to prove that I can get myself to the final three, and I didn't do that. You know what I have to say about this? If you can convince someone to throw the Final Four HOH, I think you've earned your spot. Even if it goes down like that, I think you earned your spot. Not everything is about these competitions, you know, that doesn't determine necessarily who the best player is. So Jackson is pep talking Nicole and he's saying, your social game has been impeccable. You did earn yourself a spot in the final three. That's not what he was saying a few hours ago to Holly when he was like, we handed Nicole that HOH. And I just want to point out too, Holly was very quiet during this conversation. She didn't have anything to say. So Jackson is talking up Nicole's comp wins. He's like, oh, you won during the double eviction. You won that veto to keep you and Cliff safe, blah, blah, blah. And Nicole's saying, you know, maybe I shouldn't even be telling you guys this until after the season's over. But in general, I've questioned everything so much. Meaning like them last week too. And she says, you are far better people than me. No, Nicole, no! So Jackson says, there's no reason why you should feel guilty. Again, Holly is sitting there with nothing to say. It's like when Sis and Christy were nominated and Holly went in there to console them and she just sat there and stared at them. It felt a lot like that. So after, Jackson and Holly are chatting alone and Jackson says, everything works out the way it should. Does it though? And Holly says, you know, I feel guilt too. Part of me thinks that she saw how nice Jackson was being to Nicole and how much attention he was giving her, and she's like, I feel guilty too. So she says, I just wish that I stuck to my guns on a game level and didn't let my morals get in the way. I wish I had gotten myself to Final Three rather than you getting me there, because she's just convinced if she had not decided to throw that HOH competition, she is convinced that she would have automatically won it, which is not the case. Anything could have happened. So now she's feeling kind of like, ooh, I didn't win my spot in the final three. Jackson's gonna have to drag me there. So Jackson says, don't say that. That makes me feel bad. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So then Jackson says, you were going to leave here knowing that you stuck by your morals and you still made it to the end. I mean, she didn't know that the whole Tommy thing was a made up lie, but she went along with it. Okay, I don't know if that's really sticking to your morals, but of course, if that comes up, they'll say, we had to do that because of Cliff and Nicole. Okay, so again, I don't see anything wrong with the game move that they did, but again, own it. So then some more quick tidbits. Cliff thinks that he's staying still. He's not really going to approach Jackson about it at this point because they still have a lot of time left. He doesn't want to be like that paranoid person that's asking away, like the same dilemma Holly had last week where she didn't want to keep asking. So Cliff says Jackson is a Southern gentleman and a handshake means something. Alright, so today, I guess they're going to be tie-dyeing at some point. Jackson was working on his power veto speech, and it sounds like he's going to try and rip Cliff and Nicole some new ones. He's gonna be like, you turned this into a big brother that I didn't want to have to play. Again, blaming them for all of his actions in the game. And being like, we had a Final Four deal, whatever, you didn't stick to it, and then this happened, and then this happened. You offer up these ridiculous new deals. You like tried to back us into a corner, blah, blah, blah. Again, do you care about your jury votes? Because it doesn't seem like it. So I don't know if the power veto ceremony is going to be tomorrow, like it normally would be, or if they're going to do it live on Thursday, because this is a little bit of a different format. Usually, doesn't the fourth place person usually go out to a quiet studio on a Sunday? I feel like. But they're not doing that this year because it's just formatted differently at the end. So anyway, I just feel like next week is going to be rough for Nicole. She's going to be stuck for a whole week with Holly and Jackson. Ah! She deserves the money just for that. So anyway, I also just want to thank Cliff again for another shout out last night. I hope he enjoys the puppet shows when he gets out. We do not have a Prospector doll from Toy Story 2, so hopefully he'll be cool with Ernie from Sesame Street. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I don't know when Jackson is planning on telling Cliff that he's going. I don't know if it's going to be a blindside or he's going to tell him ahead of time. Should be interesting to see how this is handled though. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. And until tomorrow, much love.